Well, I always say it's the best day of the week, right? It's Friday, and that means it's time for the mailbag edition of the Morning Pit here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I always look forward to this. I hope you do as well. I know I enjoy it on my end. I mean, you guys probably hear me say it. I know it's not probably. You do hear me say it every week, and you probably get Here's what you probably get sick of hearing me say it every week, but I can't help it. I just like doing these Friday morning Pit mailbags. Well, okay, it's not my favorite thing we do here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That would have to be the post-game shows. Those are the most fun to do when we can go live after the game and talk and drink and talk and drink and just have a good time and just sort of relax and unwind about the game. And sometimes we don't relax all that much. Sometimes there's ranting and raving, but I mean, that's part of it as well. We'll be live after the West Virginia game tomorrow, the backyard brawl at Acrisure Stadium. That game's a 3:30 kickoff. Hopefully we can be live for the postgame show by 9 o'clock. That would be great. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it or not. We'll try to get to that. We'll try to get there and get live by 9, but we'll see. If you want to make sure you don't miss our live postgame show tomorrow, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and turn on your notifications. That way you won't miss any of our Pit video content, whether it's these morning Pit videos every day of the week, Monday through Friday, our live shows like the Wednesday night live stream or the postgame show, or anything else we do. Press conferences, interviews, all those different things that we produce here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like this video and subscribe. I don't usually tell you to do this stuff right off the bat, but it's just sort of how the conversation went because I'm excited about the mailbag. I'm excited about the backyard brawl. I'm excited about the post-game show. We got a lot to look forward to. Let's start it off right here with the Morning Pit Mailbag to get your Friday going on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, great questions already have rolled into the mailbag posts that we put on Panther-Lair.com every week. And so I don't need to waste any more time telling you to like and subscribe because I already did that. You already know about Panther-Lair.com. It's the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. So all those things are already out there. They're on the table. Let's jump into the questions and start off with Potter County native, who says, after 2 games, what do you see as our final record and will we be in a bowl game? So we had this question last week. It was after 1 game. Do you see a different, have you changed your prediction? After seeing Eli Holstein, seeing the offense against Kent State, have you changed your prediction? This is what people were asking me. Have you changed your prediction on the season? And, my answer then was no. And I don't know if the Cincinnati game necessarily changed it either. Look, from the start in August, and probably before, what I said to you is that my prediction, my expectation was this team would probably be an 8-win team. They would probably end up 8-5. Either 8-4 with a loss in a bowl game, 7-5 with a win in a bowl game, somewhere around there. Let's just call it an 8-win team, no matter how they get there. And if you want to take that to mean 8 wins in the regular season and you see what will happen in the bowl, or you want to take that to mean just one way or the other, they get to 8 wins, that's fine. I still sort of feel that way. Look, everything's riding high right now, but as our good friend Jim Hammett pointed out, they needed a 50-year historic comeback to beat a Cincinnati team that may or may not be very good. And they needed Cincinnati to implode for it to happen. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to like about this team, but I think there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered. This weekend is going to give us some more insight on a few of those, namely the defense and how well they can do against good rushing teams. I don't think they did very well against a good rushing team last week and a good running back at Cincinnati, and now they're going against a team that has had success running the ball against them. C.J. Donaldson is averaging almost 10 yards per carry over the last 2 years against Pitt, and those were, I think in 2022 was a better defense than Pitt has right now, certainly a better defensive line, and I think you could probably make the case that last year's defensive line was better than this one. There's a question about that coming up here in the mailbag, and so I very much have some question marks, some skepticism about certain areas of this team, largely on defense, but I think this offense is going to be continue to be a work in progress. Look, it didn't arrive as a fully finished product. Against Kent State, they looked fine, but obviously we saw some of the warts show against Cincinnati. Now, you come out of that game encouraged by how they were able to turn that around, and you'll see in the 3-2-1 column that we published later today on Panther-Lair.com, I'm very encouraged by the way the offense was able to turn it around, particularly Eli Holstein, how he was able to turn it around in the game. It's one thing to improve from game to game, but Eli Holstein really improved, not even like drive to drive, quarter to quarter, half to half, but like the first 40 minutes and the final 20 minutes and really took some steps forward. And, talking to Cade Bell this week, you get a sense of what some of those issues were that maybe held him back or caused him to struggle in the first 40 minutes. And a lot of it comes down to trusting the offense and trusting the players around him, which Eli Holstein needed to do a better job of, that he maybe was a bit hesitant early in that game because he wasn't trusting the scheme and he wasn't trusting the game plan. Well, I think he learned some lessons in that game, and by the end of the game, I think he was trusting it more, and you saw the results that happened. I mean, he was outstanding in the final 20 minutes. He was 12 of 14 for more than 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Fourth quarter, he was 10 of 11 for like $189 and 2 scores. I mean, that's really good, particularly when he started off 7 of 17 for 90 some yards in the first half. 8 of 21 for 94 yards. After 40 minutes of play. I mean, it was really bad, and then it turned around and got really good, and I think that's encouraging. It's encouraging for Eli Holstein's play, and I think what we've seen out of the offensive scheme overall has been encouraging through 2 games. So, but I still kind of end up around where I was of predicting this to be an 8-win team because, look, I was taking offensive improvement into consideration when I made a prediction of this team winning 8 games. That I thought with a slightly better offense, they probably would have been close to 8 wins last year. And so I expected the offense to be slightly better, if not more. And so that's why I based the prediction. So everything has sort of fallen in line with what I expected or predicted overall. I mean, the details of how they've gotten to certain points and how they've responded in certain situations and the way they've won these 2 games maybe weren't exactly what I expected. But on the whole, I think it's been the storyline that I expected to see. A slightly better offense, a defense with some question marks, and a team that will ultimately settle in probably around 8 wins. So my expectation hasn't changed. I absolutely expect them to make a bowl game. That was To me, it was like, to get to a bowl game, you need to win 6 games. Like, to me, that was a non-starter. They had to win a minimum of 6 games. But it was a question of where they would get after that. So, yeah, I think they'll get to a bowl. It's just a question of how many wins they can put together total. I'm still on the 8-win bandwagon. If that's a bandwagon, I'm not sure if it is. But, yeah, I do think they'll get to a bowl. Marshall Dawes 8 says, if Pitt has a pretty successful season this year, 8 or more wins, how many more years do you think Narduzzi will keep coaching? The rest of his contract, 3 or 4? Does he try and set up someone as his successor? Yeah, I don't know. There's part of me that thinks that Pat Narduzzi will get to the end of his contract or get fired, one or the other. And I say that to make it sound like the doom and gloom, the end is near. I mean, it's just a natural course of events of how things typically go. I think he'll get to the end of his contract. I don't know. I really don't know what is going to happen with Pat Narduzzi, what the future will hold. He is getting older, but he's still got a lot of energy. I think he's got a lot of energy and passion for this job. I think a lot of it has taken a hit in the past few years, like it has for a lot of college coaches, as a big part of the appeal of this sport has worn off. And it's become a different kind of challenge. And, as far as being a general manager, of dealing with NIL and dealing with the transfer portal and dealing with things that you didn't have to deal with 15 years ago, 30 years ago, 45 years ago, which is the sport, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, 45 years ago. That's the sport that Pat Narduzzi wanted to be in. That's the sport that Pat Narduzzi wanted to be a part of. Well, it's a very different game now. And a lot of coaches have left college sports. A lot of coaches have left college football. Pat Narduzzi may eventually get to that point as well. Right now, I think if you would ask him, he would say he'll coach here as long as they'll have him. And I think he would genuinely mean it. I really do. I think there's still enough of college football, of sort of traditional college football. I think there's enough of it left to draw him in and entice him and make him, enjoy it. But if things keep changing, and they will, I could see him maybe walking away. But I don't know if it would be too contingent on what happens this season. That what happens this season affects things more on Pitt's end than on Pat Narduzzi's end, is what I think. What happens sort of in the general sport of college football is what I think would probably impact Narduzzi more. PH Panther says, who is this Pitt team? The one we saw for 2.5 quarters on Saturday against Cincinnati, or the one we saw for the last 1.5 quarters? I know the easy answer is somewhere in between, but do you feel it is skewed toward the last third of the game or toward the first 2/3? Well, it's all of it. Like, they are the team that played all 60 minutes at Cincinnati. And I think it's important to look at it that way and to keep it in mind, particularly if they come out really hot or really cold against West Virginia. You know, I think it's important to keep in mind that this is a team running a brand new offense, replacing 9 starters on defense with a redshirt freshman at quarterback, a number of other young players playing significant roles, prominent roles for the first time. And as such, you're going to have ebbs and flows. Now, you'd like them to not be quite as extreme as they were in the Cincinnati game, because the extremeness of the first 40 minutes, required the final 20 to be equally extreme in order to balance it out and get Pitt a win. But I mean, you're going to have that back and forth. You're going to have those ebbs and flows. It's part of what this team is going to be. Now, who's the real team? Like I say, it's all of it. If you want to take encouragement, though, out of that Cincinnati game, I'll come back to what I said a minute ago. It's what, I'm writing about in the 3-2-1 column. I've said it a couple times this week. It's Eli Holstein's progress in that game. And it's not just him. It wasn't just him that was causing the offense to struggle, but a big part of it was him. Overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys, making bad throws. I don't know if he was necessarily making bad reads. He was throwing it to the guy he should throw it to, but as Cade Bell said, he was hesitating. He was taking his time, not trusting the game plan. Like we said, we come with what we keep coming back to, not trusting the game plan and pulling the trigger on those throws. But he got better at it. And I think that's where you take the biggest encouragement out of Saturday's game, is how Eli Holstein progressed and developed over the course of that game and made big plays down the stretch. And then you obviously take a lot of encouragement out of the playmakers, and those guys, I mean, to some extent, were relying on Holstein getting them the ball, but like Desmond Reed is legit. Kanate Mumfield is legit. Kenny Johnson got shut out, but I think we can feel pretty confident that he is legit. Gavin Bartholomew is legit. I think Raphael Williams and Sincere Lee are going to come up big at points for this team. They will make plays. And like I said, I think I gave it away earlier this week. That's going to be my prediction in this week's 3-2-1 column. 3 things we know, 2 predictions or 3 things we know, 2 questions we have, 1 prediction. The one prediction is going to be that at some point this season, Raphael Williams and Sincere Lee will each have 100-yard games. I really believe in that. So, I mean, I think you've got legit playmakers. You've got a young quarterback who's growing with basically every snap. And so I think there are reasons to be encouraged about that. Defensively, I think that is the real team. The team that's going to give up plays. They're going to get beat. They're going to get beat on deep passes. They always do. They don't get beat on all of them, but they do get beat they don't get beat on every deep pass, but they get beat on some deep passes every game, right? Like we know that. There's been a feast or famine feel to this defense for years now. Years that either they get to the quarterback or they give up a long play. And it's not 100% like that, but it sure feels that way. And so they're going to have plays like the touchdown Rylan Gandy gave up, or the touchdown Rashad Battle gave up. Those plays are going to happen. Some of the run plays that they allowed, that's going to happen. And that's not about the structure of the defense. I think that's just about the personnel of the defense this year and kind of what they have. It's going to happen this Saturday. It's going to happen tomorrow. West Virginia is going to run the ball, and they're going to have success doing it. All right? There are a couple of things Pitt can do to take West Virginia out of that success. They can score, first and foremost. I mean, aside from everything they need to do defensively, they could just score and then force West Virginia to maybe get out of what it wants to do. If you can put pressure on with your own offense, you force the other offense to keep up with you, and that can maybe take West Virginia out of some of its preferred options, which is handing the ball off. But that's going to happen. And so, I think we've seen this story. And look, you can go back to Michigan State and find this story about, Pat Narduzzi's defense, that they will give up plays, and then they'll crack down and they'll make some big plays when they need to. And it doesn't happen every game, but it's happened a lot. I think we've seen it a lot over the years where this defense makes plays in the fourth quarter, where they'll give up stuff in the first 3. And somehow, some way, they make plays in the fourth quarter. And so that's who they were on Saturday at Cincinnati, right? And that's the whole 60-minute picture. It's not about who you were in the first 40 or who you were in the last 20. It's who you were for the whole 60. And so you know, it's all part of the picture. You can't just fade out part of the picture or hide part of the picture and say this is who they really are. You know, I don't think they're going to have a game where they play the whole 60 minutes like they played the final 20 there. Maybe Youngstown State. But I also don't think they're going to have a game where they play the whole 60 minutes the way they played the first 40 there. So I think, you know, who are they? Who's the real team? I think you saw it. And what you're looking for going forward is that instead of being 40 minutes of bad and 20 minutes of good, it starts shifting to closer to, you know, even balance, and then just becomes heavier on the good than the bad. And, you know, it doesn't usually break down as sort of cleanly as that game did, 40 minutes and 20 minutes. You know, usually it's back and forth between, you know, goodness and badness, but you'd like to see eventually that balance shift toward the good. And, you know, but that's who the team is. I think they'll have ebbs and flows all season. Byrne says, why isn't Dejon Reynolds getting more playing time? You know, he's playing. He's just not getting targeted. Let me look up the stats here. I want to find Dejon Reynolds, his snap counts here. He's been on the field. He has played. Oh, that's the receiving. I do want to get to the target numbers. Dejon Reynolds has played 30 snaps through the first 2 games. Now that's behind. All these stats are according to a Pro Football Focus. He's played 30 snaps in the first 2 games. Raphael Williams 135. So yeah, 100 snaps less than him. Kanate Mumfield 124, so almost 100 snaps less. Kenny Johnson 88, so you know you're looking at almost 60 snaps less for Dejon Reynolds. Sincere Lee has played 67 snaps, so more than double what Reynolds has played. Derek Davis has played more. Jake Overman's played more. You know, Desmond Reed and Gavin Bartholomew obviously have played more. So, you know, right now, 2, 3, 4. You know, Reynolds is the 5th receiver. You know, that's his spot. And you know, so the question of why isn't he playing more? I mean, I think Dejon Reynolds is a really nice player. I think he can do some really solid things. I think by the end of the year last year, he was playing well for Pitt, but I don't think he's as explosive as Mumfield, Johnson, Williams, or Lee, or Reed. You know, and I don't think he presents the matchup problem that Bartholomew does. And so, you know, that doesn't mean you should never throw him the ball. And so far this season, they haven't thrown him the ball. I think you can find roles for him and opportunities. But like right now, you're looking for the game breakers. You're looking for the guys who can really make those plays. And I think, you know, in the view of the coaches, and they're probably not wrong, Kanate Mumfield can make those plays. Is more of a potential threat to break the game open than Dejon Reynolds. You know, ditto for Kenny Johnson, ditto for Raphael Williams, ditto for Sincere Lee. I think that's probably how and obviously ditto for Desmond Reed. And then in his own unique way, Gavin Bartholomew. I think that's probably how the coaches are looking at it. That's not to say he can't have a role. That's not to say he can't contribute. That's not to say he can't be a good player. But I think that's how they're looking at it, and I don't entirely disagree. You know, yes, they're running a lot more plays. They're throwing the ball more. They're getting the ball around. But, like, there still are only so many touches to go around. And, you know, it comes back to that old thing. I think it was like 2009. People will be like, oh, why don't you get the ball to Henry Hynoski? You got to get it to Hynoski. And I'm like, yeah, Henry's a good player. He's great at what he does. And love it when he gets the ball. It's fun to watch. But, like, if you have the option of giving the ball to Henry Hynoski or Dion Lewis, who are you going to give it to? If you have the option of giving the ball to Henry Hynoski or Doran Dickerson, who are you going to give it to? If you have the option of giving the ball to Henry Hynoski or Jonathan Baldwin, who are you going to give it to? Like, those 3 guys should get the ball a lot more than that other guy. And it doesn't mean you just completely ignore him from the offense. There's a role and a job there, and he's good at his job. And I think that's the case with Dejon Reynolds as well. But, like, you go to the guys who can break the game open. You go to the guys who can turn, an average play into a, extraordinary play. You know, turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. That's the way I wanted to say that. And, Dejon Reynolds, I think, is a really nice player and can be reliable. But you got to emphasize your playmakers, and I think those other guys are the ones. I meant to look this up. 121 Rum asks, how many freshmen have played and which do you think will lose their red shirt in the fourth game? So here, let's just scroll through real quick. On offense, Tyreek Robinson and Malachi Thomas have both played. Those are the only freshmen on offense as I glance through here. They both played in the Kent State game. Defensively, Sincere Edwards has played, and I would expect him to burn his red shirt. I thought Jasir Whittington played in the Kent State game. We'll see what develops there. Thought there was a Francis Brew played in the Cincinnati game. We'll see kind of what develops there as well. I apologize. I meant to look this up beforehand. So I think that's it. So Brew, Whittington, and Edwards on defense, unless I'm missing somebody. And then Thomas and Robinson on offense. Let me look at I'm glancing through Pro Football Focus here and their snap counts. So I'm looking at special teams real quick to see if there's anybody else who got in there. Oh, Malachi Thomas has actually played in both games so far on special teams. So he's 2 games in. It would seem like he's heading toward playing. Let's see if any of these other guys have played. Tyreek Robinson, he's only played 1 game. Edwards has played 2 games. Francis Brew has played 1 game. So I would say, your most likely candidates to burn their red shirts right now are probably Sincere Edwards and Malachi Thomas. Edwards, obviously, he's in the rotation at defensive end. He's not going to come out of that rotation. I would think Francis Brew, now that he's healthy and playing, I think he's going to be in that rotation at defensive tackle and probably not come out. So I would expect him to burn his red shirt. And then Malachi Thomas seems like he's got a role on special teams at the very least. So probably him. So those 3, I would say, are the most likely candidates right now. And then we'll see what develops. We'll see who emerges, who kind of earns a spot. But, Francis Brew didn't play in that first game, so he wouldn't he wouldn't hit his 4-game threshold in the Youngstown State game, but I would expect that he'll get there. I think he'll be part of that D-tackle rotation. Somebody's going to drop out of the rotation or lose snaps when Sean Fitzsimmons comes back. I'm not sure when that's going to be. It still might be a while. But, I think we'll see if Francis Brew, we'll see what happens to his snap counts. But I would guess that he's going to burn his red shirt. Edwards definitely, and then probably Malachi Thomas, I should say. Not Malik. Let's see. Here, we'll take this last question. This is fun. Fun question. Ohio Pete says, with 3 high-quality wide receivers, a great tight end, a dual-threat receiving, rushing running back, and a promising young quarterback, does this offense have the most playmaker options in the Narduzzi era? Now, that's an interesting question. I'll tell you the first year I thought of when considering this question was 2021, right? So, we'll get into the specifics in a second. But, Jordan Addison, obviously. Izzy Abanikanda, not used, by choice of Mark Whipple, building Kenny Pickett's Heisman campaign. But Izzy Abanikanda's on that team. Lucas Krull and Gavin Bartholomew are on that team. Jared Wayne's a nice player. He's a wide receiver on that team. I think that's a pretty good group. And some of that is the star power. Like, Jordan Addison was just that good. Izzy Abanikanda could have been that good if he ever got the ball. 2016 was a pretty exciting, explosive group of playmakers. Again, different from this year. You had, Jester Weah, who was pretty much just a downfield guy, but he ended up with 10 touchdowns. Obviously, James Conner at running back, Scott Orndorff at tight end was a good playmaker. Quadri Henderson doing what he did. And then, throw in George Aston and the role he played. Again, 10 touchdown guy. He had 5 rushing touchdowns and 5 receiving touchdowns. That's legit. I don't know if there will be 3 guys actually that year they ended up with 4 guys who scored 10 touchdowns. Because I think Weah, Henderson, Connor, and Aston all scored 10 touchdowns that season. I don't know if there's going to be 4 guys who scored 10 touchdowns this year. And so a lot of playmakers there. Now, maybe one of the differences here is kind of the wide receiver group. With Mumfield, Johnson, and then if you want to throw Poppy Williams in there, that it might be a little bit. It's deeper, a little bit more explosive, I would say. But yeah, those would be years that come to mind as having comparable and really good groups of, playmaker groups. So I like those positions. But I like that comparison. What other years come to mind? If you're out there, you're watching this, you have an idea of a group, and maybe you feel like any of these we're talking about don't compare to this year, or maybe you feel like those are far and away better than this year. I'd like to hear your thoughts. You can put them in the comments here on YouTube or on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com. Either way, Panther-Lair.com is the place to talk with other Pitt fans all day, every day. The message boards are buzzing at Panther-Lair.com, and Pitt fans are hanging out talking about Pitt sports. So come and hang out and join the conversation with us because it's a lot of fun. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com, so you never miss any of our Pitt video content. Backyard Brawl, depending on when you're watching this video, could be less than 24 hours away. Either way, it's coming up tomorrow afternoon. Can't wait for that one. I'm excited, and I'm really looking forward to the post-game show afterward. Win or lose, we're going to have a lot to talk about, so make sure you tune in here tomorrow night at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com for the Panther-Lair post-game show. We'll let you know a specific time on Twitter and on the message boards, but you can be sure to not miss the live show. If you click that subscribe button and turn on notifications, and then you'll get an alert sent to your phone whenever we go live. So thanks for watching this video today. Thanks for watching the videos all week. It's been an exciting week with a lot of news, a whole lot to talk about. And I appreciate you joining us here to talk about it on these videos. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your Friday. Enjoy tomorrow morning, and we will catch up with you after the game right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.